You watched Trust Me, The False Prophet on Netflix. You saw how he was caught. A couple with cameras, a confession in a car, the FBI, the arrest. 50 years in federal prison. Netflix ended the story there. But the story did not end. Samuel Bateman is in a federal prison cell right now, and he is still calling his followers every single day. 8 underage girls were rescued from his compound. Then they vanished from state custody. The government lost them. A man received a life sentence for giving his own daughters, aged 9 and 11, to Bateman. A father, his own children. And the survivors who testified against him, they are rebuilding their lives inside a community that still has people who call Bateman a prophet. Netflix showed you how he was caught. Nobody finished the story of what came after. That is why this video exists.
Samuel Bateman grew up inside the fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a polygamist community on the Arizona-Utah border known as Short Creek. The FLDS had been led for decades by Warren Jeffs, a man who wielded absolute religious authority, arranged marriages between adult men and underage girls, and was convicted in 2011 of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old he had taken as a bride. Life in prison, plus 20 years. His imprisonment left a power vacuum. Bateman filled it. Beginning around 2019, Bateman declared himself a prophet. He announced that Warren Jeffs was now speaking directly through him from prison. He assembled followers, people who had grown up in isolation, people already conditioned to obey prophetic authority absolutely, people for whom questioning the prophet was equivalent to questioning God. He began taking wives, more than 20 eventually, at least 10 under 18 years old. The youngest was 9 years old. This was not a stranger who appeared from nowhere. This was a man who understood the exact psychological and theological architecture of the community he grew up in, and used it as a weapon.
We like our true crime stories to end with a gavel strike and a closed door. A dangerous cult leader is exposed, prosecuted, and locked away for 50 years. Case closed. The system worked. And the state certainly delivered tangible victories. The FBI successfully raided Samuel Bateman's compound, dismantled his operation, and secured guilty pleas for a years-long child sexual abuse conspiracy. But a prison sentence doesn't erase influence. Right now, Samuel Bateman is serving his 50 years in a federal cell. He is also making daily phone calls to his loyal followers, continuing to dictate their lives from the inside. Even more alarming, when authorities raided his compound, they rescued 8 underage girls and placed them in state custody. But shortly after being saved, all 8 of those children completely vanished from the system meant to protect them. The American criminal justice system is highly efficient at putting men behind bars. But a prison cell cannot lock up an ideology. Bateman didn't build his following from scratch. He exploited the insular FLDS community of Short Creek, a place where people live largely separated from mainstream society. In this theological framework, questioning the leader's authority is identical to questioning God. We have seen this exact dynamic before. When the previous leader, Warren Jeffs, was convicted in 2011, his life sentence did not silence him. He simply continued to issue directives to his followers from federal prison. To an outsider, a conviction proves guilt. But inside a high-control group, a leader's imprisonment is actively weaponized. It becomes a persecution narrative. Being locked up doesn't prove the prophet is a criminal. It proves he is a martyr, suffering righteously against a corrupt outside world. This conditioning is deep enough to override basic human instincts. One of Bateman's followers, Liddell Bisline, received a life sentence because he willingly gave his own 2 daughters to Bateman. Those girls were just 9 and 11 years old. Putting Bateman in a cell didn't dismantle his operation because he did not act alone. He sat atop a vast network of adults who believed their complicity in child abuse was an act of absolute religious devotion. That protective network extends far beyond the adults who went to prison. we have to look at what happened to those 8 underage girls who were rescued and then vanished. Short Creek sits right on the Arizona-Utah border. It is incredibly isolated, walled off by massive red rock cliffs that serve as a natural barrier to outside intervention. But the social barriers are even higher. This is a community built on generations of deep, extended family ties, paired with a profound, culturally ingrained distrust of government agencies. This diagram illustrates exactly how state intervention fails in a closed network. When Child Protective Services places a rescued child into state custody, the surrounding community can quietly move them through interconnected family lines. The state agency is actively blocked, unable to penetrate the community structure to locate the child. Because of those physical and social walls, as of 2026, the specific locations and safety of all 8 missing girls remain publicly unknown. Authorities successfully executed a raid and physically removed children from a compound. But that action falls flat if the state cannot pierce the invisible protective architecture of the town itself. For the survivors who have escaped Bateman's control, the present day is intensely complicated. Some have chosen to stay and rebuild their lives right inside the Short Creek area. They are doing the hard work of recovery while walking the exact same streets as the families of the men now serving life sentences. They are sharing geographic space with loyalists who still wait by the phone for Bateman's daily calls. This timeline of leadership illustrates the danger of removing one man without changing the system. In 2011, locking up Warren Jeffs created a power vacuum. By 2019, Samuel Bateman filled it. Now, in 2024, Bateman is removed, leaving another identical open void. The law has handed down its final word, a 50-year sentence for the prophet, a life sentence for the father who enabled him. By all legal measures, the accountability was absolute. But on the ground, the multi-generational isolation remains untouched. The theological framework that demands absolute obedience to a single authority figure is still completely intact. A judge's gavel can lock away the men who commit these crimes. But until that underlying belief system is dismantled, the justice system isn't solving the problem. It is simply clearing the stage.